I personally thought that when they broke Bridgerton part when they broke season 3 into two parts, like part 1 was like its own story, and then part 2 was like, its own thing. It was like two different stories, or like two different seasons. Whereas season 1 and 2, you're thinking like, whoa, it's one cohesive thing. The flow is there, but like here it's like, okay, well, now it's like, boom, it just turned, and it was just so packed, and there's just so much going on. And they even admitted that there was going to be so much packed into the last four episodes of season 3. But it just, I don't know, it was just overwhelming.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another review on the Review Garden.
I think the best way to give my reaction is to talk about each character separately. And like, I was part of the group that got to see episode 5 early on, and that really was a great experience to, you know, see the stars, hear the interviews, hear what they thought of the season, and then for you to actually watch an episode early on. It was a great treat. However, it's like, okay, well, the episode 5 was great. It's just the last 3 episodes that it's like, okay, well. So let's start with um so part 1, I watched it like 3 times already, right? But part 2, I'm like, I didn't even watch it twice yet, on Thursday when it aired. And part 1, I was like, I watched it in the morning, and then I watched it again the same day, and then I watched it, recently, so that I can be prepared for part 2. And let's just get started with Benedict. So in part 1, he was like with Tilly, them having, here and there. And you see in the second one, they're experiencing with him. And, I fast forwarded through all the parts with Benedict, because to me, it's like, okay, I understand why they said the pollen season had to go first, right? Because you've seen them season 1, season 2. It didn't make sense to drag on that love, to another season, season 4, right? So Benedict was technically supposed to be season 3, but they were like, oh, Benedict still needs more adventures. He's not ready to settle down yet, right? Okay. Well, I'm thinking your adventures are, for him to go out painting. Paint. He's an artist. He's a poet. Why aren't we experimenting with that? Why is it that his adventures are having sex through the whole town, right? Like, it needs to make sense. Like, that's all he's worth? Just having sex with the whole town? Like, even in part 2, when the guy asked him, so what do you do? He couldn't even tell him that, oh, he used to paint, or, all those things. He still doesn't know who he is. So you're telling me that his season might be next season, right? Because at the end of episode 8, he was talking to Eloise, and he was like, oh, they were going to meet each other again at the masquerade ball. So that would tell me that his season is season 4. What is he going to offer Sophie? What, sex? Is that what he's going to offer her? Is that what's going to make him stand out to her? Like, this man still doesn't know who he is. That's what we should have been, experimenting with. So I'm like, I don't know. And the thing is, it's not even Benedict's season, and Benedict had more sex throughout this whole season than than Colin and Penelope. Like it's supposed to be about them, right? But no, every time they just keep showing these clips of his, you know, sex adventures when like it should be more. If you wanted to have him do that, he could have had it in his own season and then realize that, oh, that's not where he wanted to go, right? So like I don't even see the point of, oh, Tilly at the end is like, oh, I want you to myself, and Benedict is like, well, no, you've opened my world, I'm ready to experiment more. I'm like, dude, yeah. So what is he going to offer Sophie? He's going to be acting like he's better than her and offer her what? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Okay. Let's move on to the Featheringtons. You could see in the second half, Prudence was very jealous. She was not happy with the attention that Penelope was getting, and she was especially not happy with the attention Penelope was getting from the mom. Um, so, in a way, I guess, um, because I think also what happened is the fact that she was pregnant. She actually, because she didn't want to interact with her husband in the first part, right? But then she got herself pregnant so that she could make her mom happy. But throughout that whole thing, her mom was not paying attention to her. Her mom was paying attention to Penelope because Penelope got married to someone with money. And, and that's why, like, every time they would ask the mom, oh, why does Penelope get all this? Why does Penelope's wedding look like this? She keeps telling them, like, you guys married people with no title, but Penelope married someone with no title either, but at least his family has money. So it wasn't a problem for her to spend, the extra money on Penelope and making her wedding the best, right? So, um, so when they wanted to have their party at the end of as the last party, the mom was like, she's not giving them money to spend on it. And the guys, their husbands, were really scared because they were like, you guys are wanting to have all of this and they don't have the budget for it. But luckily, Penelope put in some money so that they can have the party of their dreams, which it ended up being a great party, which I think it ended up being the butterfly ball because she was like, oh, release the bugs. And they were all butterflies, and Penelope helped them make that come true, but obviously they didn't know that it came from Penelope. They knew that it came from their mom. And speaking of the mom, Portia and Penelope's relationship throughout this season was amazing. I appreciate the growth between the two ladies and the fact that she was able to help her mom out. Once they start being open with each other and they start knowing, each other's secrets, they were able to help each other out. And I do appreciate that they didn't wait until last minute for Portia to find out that she's Lady Whistletown. Um, Obviously, the sisters found out at the party, but it would have been bad for Portia to also find out that she's Lady Whistletown with everyone else. I like that they had her find out earlier on, and she was actually helping Penelope come up with ways to solve her problems. Um, so I did appreciate the growth between the two ladies. And it wasn't just because the fact that Penelope married a guy with money, it was the fact that they both of them were able to understand each other more. They were more open with each other. And another but the thing that got me, like, Portia was justified in knowing that um Penelope, when she got mad at Penelope for finding out that she's getting married through Lady Whistletown. Because at first I thought like it would have been, oh, she tried to tell her mom, and then her mom didn't listen to her, so she went through Lady Whistletown. No, it was, she got engaged. They were at the party. She got engaged to Colin. Colin and her went to the Bridgerton house to say that they were engaged. And then that very night, she wrote in Lady Whistletown, and the paper came out the next day. And that's how everyone found out. And I'm just like, how exactly you guys are not suspecting that someone, like someone close, is Lady Whistledown? And then, when she was confronting her daughter about it, you had Colin come in and like yell at her. And I think that was also, one of the points in her easing up, because she saw that Colin actually loved her because he said it. At first, it was like, oh, why are you trapping him in this marriage? And what was weird is that he told the mom, right, that she wasn't trapping him in the marriage. And then the first thing he said to her when he found out that she was Lady Whistletown is saying, oh, you're trapping me in this wedding. Like, bitch, I didn't trap you here. I didn't ask you to ask me to marry you. You asked me to marry you. So where are you coming from? I trapped you in this wedding. And I think that Colin, so Colin finds out at the end of episode 6, right, that she's Lady Whistletown. So he followed her to the printer and saw that it was her. Now, granted, she was willing to give up her whole dream, her whole identity with Lady Whistletown, so that she could be married to him, right? But then but then the only reason she had to print it was because when Cressida took the claim that she's Lady Whistletown, she she started bashing the Bridgertons. And then that's what caused Penelope to write it, because Eloise wanted her to come back out and print something so that what Cressida said in her thing wasn't too damaging. And like, she went in. It's funny because you printed the piece because you wanted to sound like Lady Whistletown, right? But the way she was bashing the Bridgertons, that's not the way that Lady Whistletown normally writes. So it's like, if you're trying to be someone, actually read the pieces and see how it came out, right? So that's the only reason Penelope came out with the other piece. So when she went to go give it to the printer, he followed her and he saw her. And then he's like, oh, I'll never forgive you. Da, 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 da. So, like, they're not even like So after that, they weren't interacting with each other. But he's like, "Oh, I'm still going to marry you because I'm a gentleman and I keep my promises." Like, fuck you. You don't have to keep your promises. If you're mad at her, then don't get married. Like, "Oh, I'm still gonna marry you, but um we will figure out the arrangements after we get married." Okay. Well, the wedding night, the day of the wedding, he gave her like this nod that it was still happening. But speaking of her wedding, her I feel like her wedding dress could have been so much more in terms of like the prince. Um because all of her other clothing, um it always has like those strong flower, like you could see the flowers, you could see everything, you could see the different colors. It was just, her wedding dress was just silk, and then when you look at the bottom you could see the flowers at the bottom, but I wish it kind of came to the top, so that it could stand out more. But yeah, that was my piece with that. Um, but yeah, so like it looked like they were getting back on track with each other in the wedding, and then, which I also thought what was weird when they put that. I thought it was always the title is when the wedding happens, right? Because in one, the Duke and I, what was when Daphne and the Duke got married. Um, Season two, it was all the way at the end because that's when they finally got together. And here, it was, the title of the book was episode 6, but they got married in episode 7. But I guess it wasn't romancing Mr. Bridgerton, since he was mad at her the whole time and they barely interacted with each other. So the wedding happens, they were dancing with each other in the middle of the room like they were happy. But it wasn't until the queen came and the queen was like, "Everybody out, only the Bridgertons stay." And she was like, is the one of you is harboring a secret. And no one stepped forward about the Bridgerton thing. But Francesca came forward and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm marrying Lord Kilmartin." The queen was like, "I don't give a shit about that." Like, everyone could see you like him. Everyone could see that this is what's happening. That's not what I'm here about. And then like she just felt like, but I do want to stop here for a second and go back to the part where Francesca um was looking at Penelope like she wanted to kill her, when they were coming out of the church in episode 6. And I'm like, first of all, you can't be mad at Penelope because Penelope is just like you. This is her moment, right? This is her time to like get people's attention. And I think it was more Francesca was mad at the fact that her mom did not want to tell the queen about her relationship with Lord Kilmartin. And so now she was not getting attention. But I'm like, isn't that the sole purpose of your thing? You don't want attention. So why are you mad at the other ones getting attention, which is attention that they technically should be getting, because they were engaged to be married before you and Lord Kilmartin were engaged to be married. So like, for her to be looking at Penelope like that, or maybe it's the fact that she wasn't looking at Penelope, maybe she was looking at her mom, but that look that she was giving was not, like, it was not good, because it's like, okay, well, what are you jealous about? You don't like attention, you don't want attention. right? So why are you mad at her for getting attention? Unless she was mad at the mom for giving them attention and she wasn't giving Francesca and Lord Kilmartin so much attention, right? Because the mom did not like, she didn't understand the relationship that Francesca has with Lord Kilmartin. But anyway, back to the wedding, right? So the queen comes, she's like, come forward about the Lady Whistletown thing. So no one comes forward, even though one, two people in the room knew who Lady Whistletown was at the time, right? So, but they should have. No, I guess the whole reason she said hi to Lady Featherington, Portia, was because it's her house and it's her party. Okay, so that makes sense. Um, but I think in that moment, that's where Lady Danbury kind of picked up on everything. But you did notice that the queen said, Lady, that all of the Bridgertons should stay, right? But Lady Danbury stayed in the room. So I'm like, okay, so are you a Bridgerton now? I didn't know you were a Bridgerton. But I think in that moment, she kind of realized who it was, right? Because the queen was like, it's either a Bridgerton or it's someone who associates with the Bridgertons, right? So it's like, because she realized it when she was looking at the two Lady Whistletown. One was bashing the Bridgertons and one was protecting the Bridgertons. So that's where she was like, okay, well, I'm going to go to this wedding and get to the bottom of it. So after that, when Lady Danbury kind of picked up on what the queen was putting down, she went to the queen and she was like, okay, well, what are you going to do? If you find out who it is, what are you going to do about it, right? Like, okay, you find out, are you going to kill her? Are you going to imprison her? Like, isn't part of the game, you know, playing the game? Like, what are you going to do after you win? Okay, you won, but then what are you going to do? So I think that got the queen thinking. And what I love is the fact that every time they're having that conversation, Lady Danbury and the queen, Lady Danbury can say whatever she wants to the queen, right? But it's always the reaction of Brimsley to me, because he's like, did you just talk to the queen like that? Like the way he looks at Lady Danbury sometimes, he's like, did you just look at her like that? But the queen's like, oh, okay, well, I appreciate what you're saying, Lady Danbury, you know? So it's always hilarious watching the three of them in the same room. But after that, Colin, once the queen left, those two ran out. I feel like everybody else should have had an inkling and said, oh, something's up. So, you know, um, when both of them left, and this is supposed to be their wedding day. This is supposed to be a day of like when they be together, what happens on the wedding night, right? So he gets mad at her because she says she doesn't want to stop being Lady Whistletown. And I feel like this whole time it's just his jealousy, right? Because he's like, oh, you've been pushing my writing, and this whole time you've been an accomplished writer. And that's what he's mad about. The fact that she made something out of herself when he hasn't even figured it out yet. right? And I think that's also why he's mad, because he's a man and he's supposed to be the and he's supposed to have it all figured out while she's supposed to be at home doing, you know, the needlework or whatever. But this whole time that he was trying to find himself, she had already, like, she already knows who she is. And that was the problem. That was the thing that he was having problem with, because she was more advanced than he was, right? And like, he's pissed off. So now he goes his own way, and it was actually Eloise who came and hugged her and was there for her. And I do like the pace that they had in the second part to put their friendship back together, right? So it was like, at first at first Eloise was like, you have to tell him, right? But then she realizes that Colin can't handle it, right? So she's like, okay, well, don't tell him, because he can't handle it. So then when the whole Cressida thing happened, she was like, go print another one, but just make sure you don't get caught. But unfortunately, she got caught. And then she told, you know, um, Eloise that Colin knows. And Eloise even tried to go talk to Colin, even though she told Penelope she wouldn't, but she tried to. And Colin was just so stubborn and envious of Penn that he just couldn't get it out of his head, right? And then, and then the part when the day after, so the night that they were supposed to, do the marital act, they didn't do anything. He slept on the couch, and the next day, Cressida comes and blackmails her, because when she went to go to the printer, the stupid little assistant blabbed about who Lady Whistletown is. So when she goes to the Bridgerton house, um, and Colin like ran away from his wedding, from his home, to go to his mom's house, and then that's when, Cressida comes in. She blackmails Penn, and that's also when Penn's mom finds out, right? So both of them go to the Bridgerton house, even though Portia was like, don't tell him. Let's try to figure this out. And she's like, well, I'm trying not to lie to him anymore, so I need to tell him. So she goes, so both of them go to the Bridgerton house, and they're one side is trying to keep quiet. Portia's trying to, like, speak a certain way, and she's like, you don't need to do that. Both of them already know about it. And she was like, how lovely. How lovely. Right? So then when this is what annoys me, right? Because Colin is treating her like crap in private, right? But then in public, he wants to be like, no one's going to threaten my wife and get away with it. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, shut up, okay? You just last night did not do the marital act because you were mad at her for being Lady Whistletown. Now you want to try to act like you the husband of the year by saying no one can blackmail my wife. Get the hell out of here. So, so she was like, oh, she wants, double what the queen was asking. So 10,000 pounds, right? And then they're over here trying to figure out how they're going to get the money. And she's like, well, I already have the money. And then her mom was like, this whole time, that part was so funny. Colin's eyes when she was like, I have 10 pounds. And I think that's what did it again, because she's an accomplished author, right? She's a published author, and she has money. And I feel like in a way he thought like he was saving her or something. And I think that's part of his thing. He feels like he has to save her. And she's like, I don't want you to save me. I want you to be with me. I want you to stand by me, not save me. And that was also his problem, is the fact that he realized that he didn't save Penelope. Penelope is already her own woman. So that's why he's like, um, he doesn't know what to do. So anyway, this interaction was just funny to me because Eloise was like, "So you're telling me this whole time you've made more than 10,000 pounds?" And then Colin, shocked, right? And Portia is just like, "What? This whole time you had all this money? Like this whole time while we were suffering, you had all this money with you?" So like so then Colin is like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to Cressida and try to get her to not do anything. Maybe I could, I mean, maybe, yeah, he tried, but he failed. He failed. She ended up doubling that. So she wanted 20,000 pounds, and um she wanted Lady Whistletown to write an article that pretty much cleared her reputation, right? But um they were like, no, I don't want to write that, right? And she didn't have 20,000 pounds. But he was like, oh, he was going to talk to Benedict and pretty much lie about the situation so that Benedict can give him the money. But um Penelope didn't want that. Penelope was like, no, I don't want you lying to your brother for me. I'm gonna have to figure something out. So pretty much here in the show, Penelope figured everything out herself, right? So in the show, it pretty much showed you more of like woman power, like her being a wallflower and being shy about everything, but then here taking it upon herself to figure out her problem, and more like Colin being on the side supporting her through her with her problems. And I think in here I did like it better than the book, when Colin gave his speech about, oh, she's Lady Whistledown. But I feel like there could have been, after she gave her speech, of them accepting her as Lady Whistletown, that Colin came up to show his support of his wife. That would have been good as well, because he kind of said it to her in private, but I wanted him to say it in front of everybody because of all the bullshit he made her go through, right? And I did also like the fact that she sent Violet a note, letting Violet know that she's Lady Whistletown, so Violet didn't have to find out with the rest of the town. So I did like that part, that she respects her enough. And I feel like if her mom didn't know, she should have let her mom know ahead of time too. But I did like the fact, as I said earlier, that her mom already knew, because that moment when the queen walked in and was about to announce who was talking about Lady Whistletown, and her mom held her hand, I thought that was a beautiful moment, like a full turnaround, and like, from the beginning of the season. So, and then the fact that she was able to, the fact that she revealed herself, which tied it up with how the book is, because in the book she said that her money helped pay for the debt debt of her mom. So here, when the solicitor came and threatened her mom, Penelope did hear that part. And, you know, I was like, okay, well, then the only thing you could do is just say that the money came from you. So now it does tie in saying that, okay, the solicitor was like, well, the lady wasn't rich. Even her neighbors said she wasn't rich. So you're telling me your money came from her? I don't believe it. So now, with Penelope saying that she's Lady Whistletown and she made a lot of money, now it makes sense that the money came from Lady Whistletown. So her mom is not in trouble. So, with that, and now that she revealed herself as Lady Whistletown, she can't really go for full gossip. She has to, talk truth more. Everybody loves gossip, but she can't bash people like she did in certain earlier times, right? Even though she did it for the three people she did it for were for, solid reasons, I should say. But after she made the announcement that she was Lady Whistletown, people were very accepting of it. But I think it was also because the queen was accepting of it right in front of everyone. And I like how, her sisters were shocked to hear that she was Lady Whistletown, but they didn't make too much of a big deal about it. And I like how her sister used the moment right after she revealed that to let the butterflies go free. And I think all of that played very well. And then you know Colin coming in to tell her like, blah 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 blah, I was envious of you, but now I know, like, I'm proud to call you my wife, da, 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 da. I don't know, to me it was like, okay, well, you took too long to realize that, but okay. And I think that the sex scene the sex scene that they showed after that wasn't really intimate for me. Like, it should have been more, considering you didn't give her a wedding night. So to me, that moment should have been more sexier and more intimate than what they were doing. And like I said, Benedict got more sex scenes than Colin and Penelope in this whole season, and it wasn't even his season. So, but pretty much Benedict has been having so much sex in every season. So it's like, okay, well, his season, what the hell's he gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, he's a whore. Like, I don't know, but but all in all, I'm gonna say, who else? What other characters? Anthony and Kate, they barely showed up in this season. I mean, they were on their honeymoon, which is understandable. I didn't really need them to show up that much. Lady Danbury and her brother, to me, I feel like they could have made the reasoning for her to be angry at him for so long a little bit more. I do understand her point where, like, because so the whole story is, we know her relationship with her husband from Queen Charlotte, right? So she was going to run away before she married the guy, and she couldn't because her father found out. And the person who told the father was her brother, right? But she was like, He was 10 years old. 10 years old. That's not old enough to like know exactly what was going on, right? So he had to apologize because he's like he was 10. He didn't know why she was running away. It could have been harsh out there, right? So that's why he went to tell his father, which it makes sense. So you've been mad at this 10-year-old boy because he told on you for marrying, but he's not the one who forced you to marry this man, right? You should be mad at your daddy. Shouldn't have been mad at him. But then there was also you know, the whole, oh, because the father loved him more, I guess. Um, but it during that time, they always love the boys more because whoever is going to carry on the line, right? Because um even though Lady Danbury was the firstborn, he's the first boy. So obviously everything is going to be left to him. So yeah, to have that long of a anger towards him and it to be that reason, it just didn't seem like big enough to me. But I do understand her point. I'm not saying that because she had to go marry the guy and he made her life miserable. But my point is, her anger should have been towards her father, not the brother. Um, but all in all, I'm gonna say like I preferred the first part to the second part. The other people it, and this is what I mean, like it didn't even like it felt like two different things because Lord Deblin wasn't even in the second part, right? Like he could have came or something where I don't know, some kind of interaction, right? Some kind of interaction to show that he's still here, right? Because he's looking to take a wife. So he said he did it with Penelope, but he could have still went to Cressida and married her. So like I don't know. Towards the end, Cressida ended up going to go live with her aunt. So it's like, well, is she going to come back the next season? And people keep saying like they're pushing them because um Sophie is going to be in that same house, but how does that even make sense, right? Unless Sophie was the guy's daughter too. I don't know. I don't even think that makes sense. I think they were pushing her so much this season because in the books, Cressida is the one who blackmailed Penelope. I think that's why they were pushing her because now she's gone. So they could pretty much put up any story that they want, right? And in the end, um um what's her name? Francesca and Lord Kilmartin are going to Scotland, and then Eloise asked to go with them to Scotland. So I mean, it's time for her to explore, different parts of the world. But it's like, okay, well, what's the story that's gonna come from that? And that's what I was saying because when they talk about their two stories, right? So the three main ones that can be next season, right? Obviously Francesca and Kilmartin can't be next season because they were married for 2 years and he passed away. Well, that's in the book. With the way they're changing everything in the movie, it may not happen, right? So he dies and she gets together with his cousin Michael. Well, in this version, it's Michaela, right? But people are angry because of the whole fertility issues with Francesca, and then now that they made Michael a woman, is that still going to be possible? Well, I mean, she could still have her fertility issues with um Kilmartin, and then after that, she ends up having a kid by him, and then both of them, both Michaela and him and her and Francesca raised the kid, right? And with Eloise's story, it's like, okay, well, how is she going to be talking to Sir Philip? I don't know um where Sir Philip and Marina lives, but I don't think it's Scotland because in season 2, he went Colin went to go visit them, right? So I don't think they live that far away. So it's like, okay, well, how is this story going to come about, right? Because in the book, Marina was Eloise's cousin, and she messaged Sir Philip so that she can, her um condolences, right? And then that's how they started talking. Well, she knows nothing of Sir Philip. So how is she going to start talking to him? Because in the show, Marina is Eloise is Penelope's cousin, right? Or father's friend or something like that. And they never interacted at all. So how are we going to bring this story together? So I'm guessing since season 4 is about Benedict, because like I said at the end of the episode, they were like the first ball of the season is going to be the masquerade ball, which is how um Benedict sees Sophie, but he doesn't know who she is, blah blah blah. So I guess Eloise's story is going to develop during season 4 and bring it that way. I don't know. I don't know. But we shall see how they do it. But what I'm saying is the second half was so full of so much that it just, I don't know. I like the first part more. Out of 10, I'll give it a 7, only because they should have given you more Pauline. They should have given us more Penelope and Colin, and being more in the honeymoon phase versus him being so angry at her in private and then acting like he's her savior in public. It was annoying. But I mean, I guess I know what they were trying to do with that, but it should have been more. We should have gotten more of them. But then again, you saw how they did Kate and Anthony in the second season. They dragged it on so much that they didn't even give us a wedding scene for them in season 2, that they had to extend into season 3 to show us their honeymoon phase. So I guess it's the same thing. They just suck at focusing on the main couple. They want to put so much else in that it's just, I don't know. Benedict sex hex scenes, we didn't need to see them. Um so I guess we'll see what happens next season. And this wraps up our journey on the Review Garden. Thank you for joining me today as we explored this drama. If you enjoyed this reaction and review, please remember to subscribe for more insightful videos. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback helps our channel grow. As always, I'm truly grateful for your support and for joining me on this journey on the Review Garden. Until next time, and happy listening. Bye.